I discovered that fashion was one of the most polluting and one of the most socially corrupt industries in the world. And I felt completely blindsided because here I had idolized this entire industry my whole life and craved to work in it. Finally got in it, only in it within a few years to realize or to have this awakening that actually this is a really messed up industry. And so I couldn't continue what I was doing knowing what I knew.
Welcome to YanaTV. Today our guest is Stephanie Dickson, who is the founder of Green is the New Black and the host of Live Wide Awake podcast. And for our audience who doesn't maybe know you that well yet, so let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
So I was born in Sydney to Scottish parents, but I grew up in Asia and around the world. I'm pushing 35 now, and I think I've lived in over 29 residential addresses. So I've moved around a lot in my lifetime. And it's been an incredible journey, but also, just really fascinating to live in so many different places and not really know where home is.
We actually just recently had this conversation with quite a few people about identity, especially when you become so global and international, but that's probably the whole other conversation to be the third culture kid. So today, what I want to focus is what you have been doing now for a while and which is your passion, everything around sustainability. So let's maybe just start with how did you get into this field?
Yeah, so I used to work in fashion, which was my dream job. And so when I had been running, fashion weeks around Asia for a couple of years, and I all of a sudden had this awakening when I discovered that fashion was one of the most polluting and one of the most socially corrupt industries in the world. And I felt completely blindsided because here I had idolized this entire industry my whole life and craved to work in it. Finally got in it, only in it within a few years to realize or to have this awakening that actually this is a really messed up industry. And so I couldn't continue what I was doing knowing what I knew. So I quit. I wanted to be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. And so that led me on a deep rabbit hole journey, trying to understand sustainability. And at the time, this was in 2015 now, 8 years ago. So I had really tried to find a safe space to learn about sustainability and what we could do. But at the time, they were very business orientated and quite preachy. And they did not make me feel good, the events and the spaces that I found for this conversation. So because I'd done events, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to start my own events, my meetups. And that led me to launch the Conscious Festival, which is our biggest event that we run, and also the media platform Green is New Black. And there I just wanted to create safe spaces for people to learn, to realize that sustainability is a journey. No one has to be perfect here. We can take little green steps and really create that space for us to learn, but in a positive way and to feel empowered.
And I know that Green is the New Black is based in Singapore and has been based in Singapore, but you guys did events like in France, you did events, was it Hong Kong?
Hong Kong.
Right, so it's not just Singapore, but it's also other places, including in Asia. And I'm just curious, for the last 8 years, since you have been doing it that much already, what did you notice?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So back in 2015, when I started this, a lot of the people in my network and my friends were like, Steph, what are you doing leaving your fashion career to now become a hemp wearing, plant-based eating hippie? And they just there was just all these horrible connotations around sustainability and what that meant. And so that I wanted to rebel against that and show people, no, sustainability is cool, it's sexy, it's incredible, and it's something that we should all want to adopt. And so that was really part of my mission. But I do feel back then as well, the conversation was very doomsday, the media and everything was really trying to force the fear into people. And a lot of people rejected that. And so fast forward now, what I'm seeing is, there's been eco-anxiety, there's been outrage, there's the whole Greta Thunberg and the global movement that she kind of started for youth for protests and everything. So I think there's been the doom and gloom and the fear, then the outrage. And now what I'm seeing is a real return to community and to more of a positive aspect and outlook to this conversation, and really celebrating the good that's happening and finding the incredible humans who are, using their intelligence and their energy and their time to make the world a better place. And so I'm very happy to see that and to feel that. But what's crazy is when I started in 2015, no one was talking about sustainability in the media, and that was a problem. Fast forward 8 years, I found out 2 weeks ago that the media is now fatigued by the conversation, the sustainability conversation, which is a problem. And so back then it was a problem. It's still a problem now. So we're trying to navigate, okay, well, how do we return to making it interesting for people and to remove that fatigue and get them excited about this conversation again?
It's interesting when you're sharing this, because I also noticed when I was watching also you doing and participating in the events that you were creating, that it's exactly that. So in the 8 years ago, there was just a lot of really dark conversations. And then people felt even more depressed and even more anxiety. Now, what I noticed also, there are more and more people who want to focus on this positive, and there are always good news about sustainability and things you can do. So it's kind of this is the can-do attitude, right? There were a bit more like also positive mindset to that. So what do you think for people who are watching us right now and passionate about this topic and would like our planet to, be there for many, many more years to come? What can they do from a positive point of view?
Yeah, so I think there are so many things that each of us can do. And I think the most important thing is to realize that you as an individual, yes, it's a small action and small things that you can do, but you are part of the collective bridge to change. Understand and be kind to yourself that sustainability is a journey and it's not something you have to be perfect about. You can take little green steps. And as long as you keep taking steps and keep doing things, and I think that's the most important thing to focus on. And then further to that, there are a few really key focus points that I think make a big difference and will help us to shift more. One of them, of course, is diet. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to become plant-based overnight, but what I am encouraging people to do or inviting people to do is go on a little bit more of an adventure with your food. We are fortunate enough, everyone that's watching this most likely, to be able to make a decision about what we put on our plates 3 times a day. And so there shouldn't be meat on those plates 3 times a day. You can reduce that. You become flexitarian. You can explore other cuisines and other ways of eating, and you'll feel a lot healthier and lighter for it. And it's healthier and lighter for the planet. And so I think diet is a really massive thing. Another really big thing that we always, like to spotlight is, where is your money? A lot of people don't think about the fact that banks use our money, the savings, the money that we have sitting in the account. And so if we understand, okay, what does our bank do with that money? Are they investing and learning money to big projects that are actually amplifying climate change or are causing more carbon into the atmosphere in a negative way? Are they still supporting oil, coal, and gas projects? And so if you can actually just spend a little bit of time to really research and understand what does your bank do and is it aligned with your values? If not, then you should move your money to a different bank. That sends a huge, huge signal, because money, we need to shift the money. We need to shift where it's being supported and invested. And then a final thing is, of course, those of us that have the opportunity to vote, we need to vote to have the right people in power that are going to push the right narratives and to really help, because at the end of the day, we need business, we need government and individual. We're all in the triangle together and we all need to work together. But we as individuals vote the people in power. And so if we want to have a different conversation at the top, it's on us to put the people who will have that conversation in those positions.
And I noticed recently you had someone from the government, right, in Singapore, speaking and presenting at the Conscious Festival.
We had Minister Grace Fu, who is a Minister for Sustainability and the Environment. And I was very impressed. I was really blown away by her eloquency, but also her openness to answer questions. So she even took live questions from the audience, which I think is not
very
always
common.
Exactly. It's not the common case, but she was very open to just receiving the questions and having an open dialogue with the guests. That really shows testament to the values and the way that the Sustainability and Environment Ministry works in Singapore. Obviously, she was put a little bit on the spot about Singapore and their carbon tax. Mm-hmm. This is a question that came from our audience. And I think she handled it really well in saying, yes, Singapore is a leader in this region. And they do play an important role because they are quite advanced comparatively for Southeast Asia. And a lot of countries look to Singapore as the guide, as the person, the leader for a lot of these conversations. And so they do play a pivotal role for the region and for taking those leadership steps. At the same time, they're still working through things and they're still figuring everything out. So yes, they are putting regulations in place, but it takes time. Things can't just happen overnight, and they are committed to the journey and they have their 2030 goals, which they are really actively pushing for. And on top of that, they have goals for the nation, but as a government ministry and organization, they want to achieve much earlier. So if Singapore has goals for 2030, the government wants to be achieving those goals by 2025. If Singapore has goals for 2050, the government wants to be doing that much earlier as well. And so I think they are actually walking the talk with a lot of this. And, no government's perfect, but I was impressed with what she had to say and the initiatives that they are taking to really move this forward and actually embed it into the country.
Humans are not perfect. It is just nice when we're trying our best, the best way we know how. I think this is what we are saying right here.
Yeah.
When I look at sustainability, I kind of see there are like two big groups of people. So there are people usually a bit younger, you would say maybe in their like teens, 20, 30, who go more into the community. It's larger group in terms of like social media, right? And maybe spreading awareness. And but then maybe the voices are not always heard by the decision makers, right? And the other group is more institutions. So it would be like organizations, I don't know, maybe government, or maybe just companies who sort of say they're into sustainability or they're trying to do something. So in my perception, when I look at those two, I feel they don't talk enough. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, it is true. I mean, there needs to be more open dialogue with these different communities and different stakeholders in this conversation. And I think it's interesting. The government does actually do a lot of public, invitations to come and discuss certain things. So they are trying to bridge that gap and that narrative. And they, of course, do a lot with businesses as well. But there's still a huge gap. And of course, the youth want a voice and they're actively demanding to have a seat at the table. And more they are getting access. But I just, it's not nice when you see the tokenization of it. And you just see that they're there to kind of tick a box and because people feel like they have to be there versus actually deeply integrating them into the dialogue. And so I think we're on the right path, but of course, things can always be better. So
tokenization, or maybe the other word people often use these days is greenwashing. So because different companies have different agendas, people who run this is their responsibility. But we are talking right now also from a consumer point of view. So if I'm the one who actually would like to reduce greenwashing in the world, so what can I do?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to look and to think about greenwashing is look at what a company's actually done, not what they're saying they're going to do. And so if a company is really focusing on 2030 or even 2050 goals, I mean, that is like half a lifetime for some, or a quarter of a lifetime away. And so I think what we need to really look when we're looking and stepping back and looking at companies, my simple advice is look at what they've done. Are they actually been doing this for a while? And ask them about that, not about what their future goals and commitments are. Because at the end of the day, it's what they're doing now, it's what they've already done, and that's how you know a company is really committed to this, opposed to just joining the bandwagon and then saying they're going to do all these things. But then who knows if they're going to do them by 2050? Who's even going to remember what they committed to now, then? So I just think that's the easiest way to do it. And I think ask questions. I always message brands on Instagram, for example. If I can't see enough on their website and I'm curious about maybe purchasing from them or supporting them or getting their service, I'll message them, be like, hey, I don't see enough information about what you guys are doing, where your products produced. Like, do you have a sustainability policy? Like, what have you done up to this date for this mission? And if they don't give me satisfactory answers, then I don't purchase from them because our dollars and our, time is all a vote. And so you need to be, I think, mindful of where you're putting your money and your time.
And when we talk about voting with the dollar, it's also this the whole concept right around this. It's fundamentally what you were saying is probably largely we talk about clothes, we talk about food, maybe we talk about furniture. So we talk about everything that just surrounds us every day. And I know when people listening, some would go, well, that sounds nice, but I have to do so much research. Are there portals or are there communities? Are there websites that are sort of tracking already companies, and maybe people can just go there and check how the company is actually doing. Are there things like this?
Yeah, there are so many lists of resources for anything that you want. And this is the beauty of Google, the beauty of social media, and the beauty of platforms like Green is New Black. You can just message these types of accounts, be like, hey, I really want to find a brand that sells vegan sneakers, right? then you can just message brands, and most of the time they'll probably do the hard work for you, or just Google it and so much stuff is going to come up. And so I just think, people just need to be, it takes a little bit of time, but actually it can be really fun to discover new brands and to discover different ways to do things. And I think the other beautiful thing that is up and coming, or coming more and more, especially in Asia, and you can get really luxury and good quality products for a much cheaper rate. And these products already exist. So you're not buying new, you're not causing more, resource use, but you're actually using what's already in existence. And I think this is something that's really exciting, that we're starting to break the stigma of secondhand and pre-loved in Asia, because there was a stigma around it for a long time. But now it's starting to become cool. People understand that this is something that's not only good for them, but good for their wallets and good for the planet. So I think, the secondhand movement is a big way to do that. And, who doesn't want to save money, but have a good quality product instead of having something that you buy new, but is going to fall apart or disintegrate? I think that makes just sense.
And we are going to include some links in the video, so make sure you read the description. So there will be there some links for the pre-loved clothes and green is the new black, and some resources you can just read to understand, but also something more practical, like you can participate in activities and maybe, save some money. I think people always like to do that. So exactly. That's wonderful. I know that you recently became a parent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we had this conversation about it before. So usually it changes how people look at life. Very often people who feel that, they're almost actually reluctant to have kids because they're worried so much what's going to happen in 50, 100 years from now. And they don't want their children to suffer. Mm-hmm. But then if they still go ahead and they do have children, then what changes in the mind when you look around?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was one of those people. I didn't want to have kids because of how much I know about what is probably going to be happening to the planet. And it took me a long time to work through that and to get over it. And I think what changed for me is realizing, well, I'm just going to empower her with as much information and, create a little green warrior, because at the end of the day, humans are resilient. And we will survive in some way or another. And I think we'll need people that are, willing to do what's necessary and to do the right things to make the world a better place. So I'm going to give my little daughter as much as I can to support her on that journey. And I think the other thing is, at the end of the day, life can be really heavy and hard. And I think I had a lot of anxiety and I had a lot of darkness that I had to process. But at the end of the day, I have different resources available that my mom didn't have, that I can support her with whatever she needs to go through in the future. Having a kid is such a joy, and she's just a little joy in my life, and just helps to cut away a lot of the anxiety, because it's just the most incredible reminder to be present in life is this little human that changes every day. Every day it's something different. Every day she's growing, or she's developed something new, or making a new sound, it's just incredible. And so just the most beautiful reminder to be present in the moment. And that's, all we can do, and just have those moments of joy.
For parents who may be in different industry and they don't know about sustainability as much as you do, and probably they're very busy, they have kids, they have all kinds of things to do, they don't have much time to just go there and research. But at the same time, they would like to do the same. So they would like to educate their kids and make them ready for the future. So what is, maybe advice for a parent? What would be the easiest way any parent can do, whether you know much or little about sustainability and this part of the world, that you can actually help your children to make smarter decisions in the future?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, the time you're spending with your child, the books you're reading. If you just Google sustainability children's books, instead of buying the standard Coco Melon or whatever it is at the moment, you could get books and watch cartoons and watch YouTube videos around sustainability. Disney has this incredible kind of kids-friendly version of the David Attenborough kind of documentaries, right, about Animal Planet, and help your kids to fall in love with how incredible the planet is. So these can be just with their daily TV time or their daily book reading times. So easy to implement that. And that's not something that's difficult. And then the parents will be learning as well, right? Like reading these books and that kind of thing. And then I think the activities, there's actually a lot of sustainable activities and things that you can do as a family. So instead of, I don't know, going to a water park, you could go to the PUB. They have in Singapore, this like water exhibition with all these sustainable activities you can do with the kids, like family friendly things. So I think actually you can very easily integrate this stuff into your life without getting overwhelmed with it. I've been reading a lot or getting spammed on Instagram about parenting stuff, obviously.
Right.
And they talk a lot about integrating daily chores into kids, because kids don't, when they're young, they can't differentiate between play and work. And so for them, again, if you're helping to teach them how to recycle at home or, how to cook plant-based food and these types of things, like this can all, again, be integrated into daily life with children that is playful for them.
I love that. We're coming towards the end of the interview soon, and I just would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about your podcast. I know, right, that you have your own podcast, and I was honored to be the guest there. I think it was like several years ago now. So just tell us, what are you focusing on?
Yeah, so the podcast is called Live Wide Awake, and the concept is really to help people to do exactly that. How can we actually be fully present and really maximize and enjoy and live our lives? And so for that, we talk about climate change and consciousness, and we bridge the gap between those two things, and just, really try to go deep on this conversation to empower each of us to live a little bit more awake every day in our lives. And what that looks like is different for different people. But yeah, I just really enjoy it. It's where I get to play. It's where I get to have fun and interview incredible humans around the planet. And that is honestly one of my favorite things to do. Of all the things that I do, I love interviewing and sharing incredible human stories just like yours. So,
and that was Stephanie Dickson on YanaTV. I mean, such a deep, insightful, joyful, I felt very heartfelt interview. And we do going to include a lot of links in the description with this interview. So please make sure you read it and you take some small little green step actions on those. This is very important. And Stephanie and I would love to hear from you in the comments if there are any questions about sustainability. So please do ask if you want to connect, together, if you're organizing event or meetups around this. So please post links so we can build a bit of the communal section in the comments. And I am very grateful to the Muse Studio for hosting YanaTV. We love being here. And the most important thing, remember to subscribe to the channel and share this video with friends. Everything, especially the change, starts with the conversation. And I'm going to be seeing you next time.
And I think that shows testament to the, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just give me a second.
You find it.
Yeah.